time together, I ask that you silence all phones and other electronic communication devices.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Chico. I'm the Reverend Brian Plew, the called minister of this church. Welcome. If you are new to us and would like to get connected, you can do that by asking someone here how you do it, or you can do it online at uuchico.org. You're right. I need to make that change in my master. Yeah, UU Chico won't get you anywhere right now. My UU Chico will get us to our website. It is our custom to acknowledge and be mindful that the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Chico stands on lands that were formerly stewarded by the Mechoopda people. We recognize their distinctive spiritual relationship with this land, the flora, the fauna, and the waters that run near campus. We are grateful. This morning, I will deliver a lightly edited sermon first delivered by the late Reverend Dan O'Neill in 1995. Dan was in his 9th year of ministry with the UU Fellowship of Sonoma County, soon to become the UU Congregation Santa Rosa. He was part-time, and the congregation was growing rapidly. As we engage in discussions about the future of this fellowship in the meeting following this service and ongoing, I thought it appropriate that we revisit Dan's thoughts about the poorly understood calling of ministry. What exactly is it that we do? The words for our call to worship this morning were written by the Reverend Maureen Killeran. Welcome, you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day.
We light our chalice to these words by Robin F. Gray, Daybreak. Day breaks on our gratitude for family and friends, for the freedom to find our own truth, for the company of those who gather here, and the promises we offer one another. Let the light of day bring the grace of faith into our lives.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our gathering hymn. Pam Sachs will help us through it. Verses 1, 3, and 5 only, and the words will be up on the...
The words are up there, but it's hymn number 298 in our hymnal. We'll sing verse 1, 3, 5. With
Thank you. You may be seated.
Our story for all ages today is the old children's fable, The Little Red Hen. I don't know how many of you remember that. That was, or have ever heard of it. So in the spirit of cooperation, please enjoy a reading of it on the screen.
The Little Red Hen, a folktale classic by Paul Galdone. Once upon a time, a cat and a dog, a mouse and a little red hen all lived together in a cozy little house. The cat liked to sleep all day on the soft couch. The dog liked to sleep all day on the sunny back porch. And the mouse liked to snooze all day in the warm chair by the fireside. So the little red hen had to do all the housework. She cooked the meals and washed the dishes and made the beds. She swept the floor and washed the windows and mended the clothes. She raked the leaves and mowed the grass and hoed the garden. One day when she was hoeing the garden, she found some grains of wheat. "Who will plant this wheat?" cried the little red hen. "Not I," said the cat. "Oh, not I," said the dog. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I will," said the little red hen, and she did. Each morning, the little red hen watered the wheat and pulled the weeds. Soon the wheat pushed through the ground and began to grow tall. When the wheat was ripe, the little red hen asked, "Who will cut this wheat?" "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the dog. "Oh, not I," said the mouse. "Then I will," said the little red hen, and she did. When the wheat was all cut, the little red hen asked, "Now, who'll take this wheat to the mill to be ground into flour?" "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the dog. "Oh, not I," said the mouse. "Then I will," said the little red hen, and she did. The little red hen returned from the mill carrying a small bag of fine white flour. "Who'll make a cake from this fine white flour?" asked the little red hen. "Oh, not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the dog. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I will," said the little red hen, and she did. She gathered sticks and made a fire in the stove. Then she took milk and sugar and eggs and butter and mixed them in a big bowl with the fine white flour. When the oven was hot, she poured the cake batter into a shining pan and put it in the oven. Soon a delicious smell filled the cozy little house. The cat got off the soft couch and strolled into the kitchen. The dog got up from the sunny back porch and came into the kitchen. The mouse jumped down from his warm chair and scampered into the kitchen. The little red hen was just taking a beautiful cake out of the oven. "Who will eat this cake?" asked the little red hen. "I will," cried the cat. "I will," cried the dog. "I will," cried the mouse. But the little red hen said, All by myself, I planted the wheat, I tended the wheat, I cut the wheat. I took the wheat to the mill to be ground into flour. All by myself, I gathered the sticks, I built the fire, I mixed the cake, and all by myself, I am going to eat it. And so she did, to the very last crumb. After that, whenever there was work to be done, the little red hen had 3 very eager helpers.
The cat, dog, and mouse learned that they need to share in the work if they want to enjoy the reward. Work is always more fun when everyone is helping. I hope you enjoyed our story today, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest videos. See you next time. Hello.
Sharing the significant joys and sorrows of our lives helps us build community, to persevere, and to heal. May we share now our joys and sorrows, taking care not to speak of another unless we have their permission. If you have something you'd love to share with us, please come forward, take a stone out of the bowl and put it in the water. If you'd like me to take the mic to you, just raise your hand and I will do that. Please tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Bob Van Fleet, and many of you probably already know, but today on the Chico State campus, beginning at 1 o'clock, there'll be a rally and it's called Victory in Unity in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. and the beginning of Black History Month. There'll be a rally outside at where the Chico Cat sculpture is outside. I think it's on 2nd Street. And then there'll be a more organized service inside at 2 o'clock, and that's in the BMU auditorium. So.
Hi, most of you know me as Connor by now, and I have actually a couple of joys. The first one being that I am now a part of the Science and Math Club over at Butte College, which I'm excited to be a member of, especially as a STEM major, you know. And the second thing, I don't know, it's a joy, but it's something I'm slightly concerned about how it will play out. But after debating for a few months whether to start a YouTube channel on, my autism and how it works and how it affects my education, I've decided to do it. I've already filmed videos and I've decided to start posting them later this month. So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Hi, I'm Marvy, and I want to acknowledge someone in this room, Grace Marvin. If you saw the headlines today, you know that the Sierra Club and Aqua Alliance and the Center for Biodiversity have filed a lawsuit against Valley's Edge. It would not have happened without Grace's hard work to get the people and find the money, and I just want to salute you, Grace.
I have a brief joy. I want to say that Pam, our illustrious song leader and guitar player, she stepped up this morning and she goes, "Oh, I just found out you guys wanted me to help." So I am. So thank you, Pam, for keeping us in tune. Are there any other? No? Okay, I'll put a last few stones in here for those joys and concerns that remain in the silence of our hearts.
We enter now into a time of prayer and meditation. I invite you to relax into this space, get comfortable, and to breathe with me 3 times, in and out, in and out, in and out. We hold in our hearts the joys and sorrows that we have heard here this morning, of family, of illness, of birth and death, of a new YouTube channel, blog, of work by our members for justice. I invite you now to speak into this space or unchat names of persons not yet mentioned whom you hold with tenderness. And we know that not all that is on our hearts was spoken aloud. These silent reflections we also hold with tenderness. We hold in our hearts the people of Ukraine and those in conflict and war throughout the world. We hold refugees with special tenderness. Their paths are uncertain, their futures unknown. We also hold with tenderness the people and children of Somalia, people who are on the brink of climate-induced famine, a famine made worse by war. May the world pay attention and bring relief. May we work for peace and to change the prevailing climate paradigm. We hold our unhoused neighbors in our hearts during this dangerous time of cold, wet weather. May they continue to be comforted as we have heard they were comforted last night, with warmth and food and a dry place to sleep, through the work of volunteers in this church and in our city. May the volunteers be sustained. May leaders in our city whose hearts are hard be turned toward compassion. Our prayer this morning is by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. To declare with joy our resilience, to proclaim on purpose, we have survived the pandemics of our time. We have survived, we are surviving. We have pivoted and we have planned and then replanned and then thrown all plans to the wind. In this circle, we will say without shame, some days we lost our way and our passwords, and we have not always been our best selves. We are learning, and not always quickly, to regroup and remember perfection was never the point. We are here because we long to try again. To promise with people to be partners in this long haul work of loving and becoming, even while we grieve also the cost, which is not small and lingers in our hearts and turns only sometimes to rage. Here, let your body tell the truth. Shake free the stories that live in your skin. Breathe in your beauty and breathe out your burdens. Breathe in our beauty. Breathe out our burdens. Be here with it all, with all of us, in the freedom of this new day. The storm is passing over. The sun is breaking through. This new day dawns for us all. Amen and blessed be. Please remain seated for the meditative music, 391, Voice Still and Small. Chris will play it through once, and then Pam will lead us in song. The title of today's sermon is We'll Preach for Money, an Insider's Thoughts on the Ministry. As I said earlier, this was preached by the Reverend Dan O'Neill at the UU Fellowship of Sonoma County in 1995. He was in his 8th year of ministry, and soon after this sermon, in the next year, he had to resign. He was diagnosed with cancer, and his life was ended far too soon. The sermon runs longer than mine. It's about 20 minutes. I edited it down some, but I couldn't edit it anymore without gutting it. We will break halfway through to do an exercise. Not to exercise, but to do an exercise. Here's Dan. I would never compare myself to Moses. I should be so holy. At most, I would be a conduit for 1 or 2 commandments, maybe 3. And they would certainly have been minor ones. I've never, like not coveting thy neighbor's ass. I've never been big on donkeys anyway. And yet I find myself in the same guild as that venerable old leader, Moses. The profession I hold is an ancient one, going back to Mount Pisgah, Mount Sinai, and beyond. By calling, if not by nature, I am the prophet, the shaman, the priest, the pilot of people's religious life. At one time, I would have been mediating between the tribe and God, telling them God's ways and imploring the Most High not to give my people immediate feedback concerning their misbehavior. Today, I am the part-time manager of a small nonprofit with other major responsibilities in the areas of preaching, teaching, counseling, inspiring, conflict resolution, as well as being the priest who serves as a mediator between the people and that which is most holy to them. The job description varies from age to age, but at its core, the assignment is still the same: to help people order their ordinary lives in the light of this miracle of creation in which we live, to help them touch life at its innermost core, call that what you may, the numinous, the holy, the highest good, and to encourage them to live their lives in accordance with that core. Stated this way, the assignment entails a lot of doing, which it does. The list of tasks can seem unending. But that is only half the assignment. There is an even harder half, the being half. As a minister, my ultimate task is to so incorporate all of the above into my own life that I more and more am what I espouse for others to be and what I encourage others to be and do. I should be the model. As such, it is a glorious and oftentimes exceedingly trying role, filled with multiple tensions which invigorate and churn the stomach. In this way, it reflects the universe, which you may have noticed is a very tense place indeed, with creation and destruction going on for 13.7 billion years. We are, after all, made from elements created by exploding stars. And so the vibrancy of this ancient profession of mine is created by living amidst numerous tensions, tensions which invigorate and enervate. I'll name some of these tensions: comforting, confronting. The pastoral role calls for one focus, the prophetic for another. The old adage goes, comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And the whole scene is complicated since the very people who are one's clients, to use modern day terminology, are simultaneously one's bosses with direct control over compensation and employment. introversion versus extroversion. Many of us go into the ministry because we are inclined toward matters interior, matters of the spirit, of theology, of philosophy. Dan speaking says he measures out as an introvert on personality tests like the Myers-Briggs. So do I. Ironically, we then find ourselves in a very public role, often expected to be in the center of activity. Sacred versus secular. There is a common tendency to go overboard in one of these dimensions. Many pastors in other denominations have to struggle with grounding their members in the real world instead of the promised afterlife. In our denomination, the struggle is usually in the opposite direction. We are among very few clergy in the world who have to tread lightly in advocating matters of the sacred, even though this is our traditional function. For today's talk, though, I want to elaborate on just two important, invigorating tensions inherent in the ministry: being versus doing. The parish ministry is one of the last generalist professions. This one job includes numerous roles, some wildly different from one another, such as public speaker, counselor, administrator. The list goes on. Some years ago, prior to Dan's talk, the Alban Institute, which is a think tank associated with the Duke Divinity School, identified 10 roles of ordained ministry: catalyst and ringleader, the person who conceives of, organizes, and gets going all groups and activities; manager administrator, the one who oversees hiring and all business aspects of the congregation; the participant, the minister who is involved in everything; pastor counselor who meets privately with congregants; pillar of the community, a visible and respected spokesperson away from the church; preacher teacher, one who explores matters of the spirit and offers them through preaching and teaching; priest, one to help people through life's transitions such as birth, marriage, and death; prophet, who goes beneath life's surfaces and cries out what's going wrong, afflicts the comfortable; social activist, who engages in efforts to bring about social justice; and finally, spiritual guide, one who helps congregants to develop a spiritual life through worship, such as meditation groups, our cellist circle group. So now we will pass out a piece of paper which lists these 10 roles with their explanation. And the exercise goes like this. You have 10 points to allot to the 10 roles. But there's a condition, a couple conditions. For one of those roles, you have to give it 4 points. For every other role that you give a priority, you have to give it 2 points minimum. You can give it more, but 2 points minimum. And if you do the math, you'll see that you can only prioritize 4 out of the 10 roles. So let's see how that goes. Have fun. We'll resume in a couple minutes. Couple minutes. Go through each of these and just ask a show of hands under each of these categories for who gave it their top priority, i.e. assigned it 4 points. Catalyst ringleader. We've got 4 for that. Manager administrator. A 1. participant who is involved in everything. 2. Pastor, counselor who meets privately with congregants. 4. Pillar of the community, visible out in the larger world. 2. 3. Okay, I didn't see it, but I'll. Preacher, teacher, one who explores matters of the Spirit. Okay, not surprisingly, this is 4, 5, 6. I think I got 13. It's close enough. It's not a scientific survey. And I think I noticed some people raising their hands twice. In this thing, you can only vote once because you can only give one thing 4 points. Well, actually, that's not true. You could give 2 things 4 points. You could throw it all at 2 things. So, all right. Priest, one who helps people through life's transitions, such as birth, marriage, and death. Two. Prophet, the one who says what needs to be heard but might be unwelcome. Prophets are never popular people. Prophets in the Bible often met untimely ends. Show of hands again for that. I didn't get the count. Nobody likes the prophet. Okay. I'm seeing a 1 for that. Social activist, one who engages in efforts to bring about social justice. Got 3, maybe 4 for that. And finally, spiritual guide, one who helps congregants to develop a spiritual life through the worship, meditation groups, small group ministry. 3. That's the list of 10. Well, thank you for your participation. And if you are so inclined, it would be great to have these, if you could just drop them off on at the back of the church as you leave, that would be great. So I resume with Dan's sermon. And Dan did this same exercise in 1995. Having such a wide variety of roles to choose from is energizing and exciting. I don't recall being bored even once in these last 9 years of doing ministry. Same for me in my 8th year of ministry. Whereas I recall that deadening phenomenon many times in previous professions. But there is a downside. It is extremely unlikely that any one person will be uniformly skilled in all these different roles, just as it is very unlikely that any one person could be able to fit them all into any kind of a reasonable schedule. Many ministers I know attempt to do everything. They accomplish this by working all the time. No days off, little vacation, and by carrying a fair amount of tension and sense of impending overwhelm with them. This is called overfunctioning. And the truth is that members of the congregation generally want their minister to function in all of these roles, and we saw that by our survey. It makes life easier to look to just one person to fulfill all their needs. The word from older ministers, and this was 1995, is that the situation is getting more and more difficult as the years go by. As society breaks down more, they say there is an increased need for the ministries that the church can offer, even while members find it harder and harder to offer resources of time and money back to the church to create those ministries. And almost 30 years ago, 30 years from this sermon, I would say that's even more the case today. And of course, the whole operation is barely understood by everyone concerned. The different roles are not, in fact, usually identified by either the minister or the congregation. Instead, it unfolds unconsciously, with many ministers attempting to do everything, and with many members feeling vaguely dissatisfied that their minister doesn't seem to be doing everything they want, meeting their priorities. This tension leads to crises in churches. In 1995, Dan counted 7 ministers in the preceding 5 years in the Pacific region who left under unfavorable circumstances. In 2022, 2 large churches in our region severed ties with their ministers in unhealthy ways. But perhaps the greatest source of tension is caused by the focus on doing, when, unless I am very mistaken, it is the minister's being that is wanted. Yes, the different tasks have to be done, certainly, but the primary thing we want from a minister is their essence. We want someone who has fed their own life through the fire of life's inner core and who lives more and more with visible evidence of having encountered the depths of life. It has been said the purpose of ordained ministry is to interpret life theologically. The irony is that the constant focus on doing hinders the development of being. As Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, former president of Starr King Seminary, says, this is an enormous loss, for it deprives the religious community of people who are prepared to think deeply, critically, prophetically, and imaginatively about life, and to live from those places of depth. What to do? First of all, make this conscious. Have both minister and congregation get clear on what they mutually want. And since virtually all the ministerial roles need to be done, all 10 of them need to be done, the next thing is to determine which are to be done by the ordained minister and which require the hiring or calling of staff or ministers and which need to be accomplished by the congregation in its role as co-ministers. Now, as I said earlier, this calling of professional ministry is an ancient one. The profession of computer programmers has been in existence maybe 40 years. Psychotherapists, maybe 100 years. The profession of ministers goes back as far as human memory extends, thousands and thousands of years. The role carries the memories and expectations of those millennia. I'm reminded of this whenever I'm taking a plane trip and make the mistake of telling the person next to me what my profession is. I remember one trip several years ago where after revealing my career, I immediately lost my existence as Dan the person. Instead, for the next 2,000 miles, I was this man's childhood Lutheran minister. The point is that thousands of years of collective memory are concentrated into this role. The congregation who calls or contracts a minister officially confers all the memory contained in that role upon their minister. I experience this power also when I make hospital visits, when I speak from this pulpit, when I officiate at rites of passage, when I deal with your most intimate experiences. It is a power that comes through me, you see, intimately intertwined with who I am, but not synonymous with who I am. These powers belong to you, the congregation, and to the shared tradition dating back thousands of years to which you belong. I am granted their use. They exist apart from the particular minister who uses them. They transfer to any minister who is called to this role. This is both exhilarating and potent, as well as dangerous and deceiving. I've spoken of the potent and exhilarating part. There is a great added dimension that comes with me when I take the hand of someone lying sick in a hospital bed, a power flowing through me from this whole congregation and the millennia of tradition to which you belong. But it can be dangerous and deceiving. Dangerous when any of us forget about the difference between role and person. This can happen with either of us, with me, with you. The minister can forget this main source of their power and begin to believe that they themselves contain all the potency. The congregant can likewise forget and begin to confuse the minister with the person. Much of the tragedy of clergy sexual abuse comes from these confusions. It is incumbent upon ministers not to abuse their roles and the power that goes with it. It is wise for the congregant not to transfer the power of the role to the person occupying the role. Now, I will make a bold statement, but one I feel is true. It may even sound contradictory to what I just said above about the importance of separating the role from the person. While it is extremely important to remember that the person and the role are distinct, it is nevertheless virtually impossible to fully separate the role from the person. When you come to know a person as a minister, it cannot be expected that you will have full access to them as a person apart from that role. The two are intertwined. The role can never be fully discarded by either party. This makes the ministry a lonely profession. The one arena in which others grant you the profound privilege of sharing their greatest intimacies is the one in which you do not and cannot share your own great intimacies. The intimacy needs of the minister need to be met outside the system, which confers one's profoundly privileged role. This is why ministers find it vitally important to be part of systems in which they are not the priest or pastor. This can only happen outside the church in which they are the minister. But for all its dangerousness, it is a profoundly privileged role. I'm privileged each and every time one of you brings me into the tenderness of deep pain or the exhilaration of great joy. I feel privileged to learn from you, as I always do, about how to live in community and how to live life with wisdom. I am deeply privileged to be given the assignment of exploring matters of great importance and actually being listened to with care and attention numerous times each month. And finally, I feel privileged, just like Moses and all the ministers before and after him, to be invited occasionally up to the mountaintop to see the glory of the Most High and to feel my soul ignited by the holy fire. When I experience great moments of ecstasy with you, sharing your joy or your excitement or your learnings, I find myself on that mountaintop. For the holy is there. For a while, I feel myself on fire. This being on fire is why I do ministry. In speaking about Moses, author and theologian Frederick Buechner said, "When God puts the finger on someone, their troubles have just begun." I wouldn't argue with that statement for a second. But something else begins too. A life privileged by the power of a tradition, the trust of a people, and the ignition of the interior kindling of passion and yearning. A life privileged by the power of a tradition, the trust of a people, and the ignition of the interior kindling of a passion and yearning. This concludes the portion of Dan's remarks that I'll share. He wraps up by going into the specifics of his church at that time. Here are my thoughts to conclude. As I wind up my 8th and final year as your minister, I feel a deep sense of gratitude and hope. We have been sorely tried these 8 years, as relatively few congregations have been tried. We have suffered and laughed and cried together. We have accomplished much, and there are things left undone. It is important work you do together, that you have done together with me, and that you will do together in the future with your minister, I hope. I hope that you will choose to continue that partnership with a new minister. Amen, and blessed be.
So our offering is one of the ways we take our ministry into the world. 25% of this quarter's non-pledge offerings go to Safe Space Winter Shelter. It's a nonprofit 501c3 providing seasonal, low-barrier emergency shelter for people experiencing homelessness in Chico. It's a come-as-you-are shelter. No one is required to take a drug or alcohol test to access the shelter. They do not limit or deny services if a guest is under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Instead, they focus on behavior and utilize a code of conduct. Safe Space welcomes limited number of animals and allows couples to sleep together. Please give generously to help support this life-saving service.
When the worship committee met last, we talked about expanding our repertoire of hymns and the hymns we can sing comfortably and are familiar with. And we decided to do what we would call a hymn of the month, where a particular hymn that we don't know well or at all will be repeatedly used through the month. So hopefully by the end of the month, it's part of what we can sing on a regular basis and comfortably. We are starting with
That's right.
answering the call of love, formerly known as standing on the side of love. The words have officially been changed by the composer to be more equitable and not ableistic. And Pam will lead us in our singing this morning. We're going to keep it simple to start.
Yeah. So today what we're going to do is we're going to sing through this first verse, and then we're going to stop, and we're going to just review the chorus. And then next week or the following week, we will review how to sing the verses. There's some syncopation in this, which kind of means that there's emphasis off the beat, and sometimes you're in the middle of the word when there's a beat in the song, and that just makes it more fun and more interesting and also a little more difficult. So, okay, so you're welcome to rise if you like for the first part and sing through this first verse together, and then you can sit for a minute while we review it. Only the first verse, and the chorus. And the chorus. Isn't it good we have a month? All right, you're welcome to have a seat, and we'll go to the next slide. And this is just the chorus. Oh, I just put it right in. Oh, but you downloaded it after? Okay, well, there you go. Oh, good. All right, so what we have is the pickups to the beginning of the chorus, and each line here is the full phrase. So the word love holds out a long time. And we're going to sing just till the blue asterisks. So we're going to, Chris and I are going to play and sing that first line, and then you guys are going to repeat, okay? So give me those first couple notes. Okay, so it'll be one. I'll count in. 1, 2, 3. We are answering the call of love. Yes. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Okay, all together, let's do it. All right. So there's 3 beats, then we sing. 1, 2, 3. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Good. All right, let's do the second part of it. So I'm going to count to 4, and then the pickup is the word M for emboldened. So what's our starting note? So let me get that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. So the tricky thing is we are, so it's not we are answer, it's we are answering the call of love. All right, let's do the whole chorus, okay? I'll count us in. What's our starting note? We are. we are, right? So 1, 2, 3. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Wonderful. All right. Next week, we'll bring this back in some form for our Guitar Sunday. Thanks.
These words by Deborah Burrell. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond. Amen, and blessed be. And how soon do you want to start, Lucy? It's 23 minutes till right now. We'll aspire to get back in here and start again on the meeting at 5 till 12.